I am not on top of events.
I'm not on top of my events, no.
They were clueless that every morning they can plug into the world with the news, weather, and traffic info that'll make their lives so much easier and more informed. Just like you and I do. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit kab.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days with some people tuning in, chiming in over there already, like Mondo Moncada on the Twitch stream with the Yo Andrew, Yo Adrian to you as well. Welcome, Yo Mondo. And also, of course, Ida Basic Garden with the Happy Free for All Friday, and that is one of the most important things that we, well, I think we do in a week, because when we talk about all the things going on and affecting us here in the borderland, or as much as we can cram into 2 hours every other day of the week, there's always at least something left unsaid, something that we didn't focus on, or particularly when we have that expanded focus of not just what's going on or affecting us right here, but stuff across the country, state, world. You pick a venue. I guess we could go intergalactic, really, if you want to talk about some of that space news. Yes, I know that there's a new website that's going to be put out about aliens, but that's the kind of thing that then could be talked about today. So Free for All Friday, that's what we call this, and why it's one of our most important days is because two very special things. We are taking on any subject, just keep it clean, particularly if you're calling in on that phone line, and we do have those phone lines open completely throughout both hours of the program. So that number to call is, of course, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Few callers on the line already, but if you want to get on there, do have those lines open, and it's worth checking back, because again, when one line closes, another one opens, etc., and just a lot going on today. I do have to say, it is Texas Law Day. Yeah, I don't know if it's actually been declared that, but that's what I think of it. Or Texas New Law Day, maybe a better way to put it, with all of those 700, just shy of 800, I got to say, laws coming into effect here in Texas, 774 to be exact. Some other things going on around town, like suspected burglary earlier this morning in downtown El Paso of the Wells Fargo. More response, more news, and other things coming out. So there's just a lot of moving parts out in and around the world, and definitely here in Texas, but it's not just about that. It's about so many other things going on, and that's why we open it up and want to hear from y'all. So particularly if you've never called into the show before, again, there's no, hey, this is how it works, or you have to do it, or have to sign up on a list. Literally, it's just a call here, but particularly invitation to those that have not, because, well, that's what we're here for, to talk about the things and as much as we can and cram into 2 hours of the show. So let's just dive straight in. We have callers on the line right now. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Andrew. Okay. I encourage and dare anybody who is seeking the truth to challenge your beliefs by listening to Tucker Carlson's conversations on Twitter with Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Colonel Douglas McGregor about Ukraine, RFK Jr., and January 6th Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, and Devin Archer, former business associate of Hunter Biden, amongst others, including Ice Cube.
Right. Yeah.
I think that they might, at least challenge their thoughts about what they believe. The other thing I would like to bring up is about defamation. Defamatory speech is defined as if you make a false statement about someone else that harms that person's reputation. Okay? According to an article I read today, here's a look at how the Alex Jones defamation case related to the First Amendment.
Mm.
Are all defamation lawsuits First Amendment cases? Yes, they are. Defamation laws involve through decades of U.S. and Supreme Court rulings on what is and what isn't particular speech. Typically, the first question jurors answer at trials is whether the speech qualifies as unprotected defamation. If it does, they address the question of damages. Jones's trial, which was in Austin, Texas, largely skipped the first question and went straight to the second. From the start, it focused on whether Jones must pay damages, but how much he should pay. Why was his trial different? Jones seemed to sabotage his own chance to fully argue that his speech was protected by not complying with orders to hand over critical evidence, such as emails, which the parents hoped would prove he knew all along that his statements were false. That led the judge to enter a rare default judgment, declaring the parents winners before the trial even began. I would say that that was a violation of his rights, was it not?
I mean, okay, I understand. And so what we're talking about there is that, okay, this is the illusion I'm going to use is more for like a criminal proceeding. But in a criminal proceeding, there's, of course, the guilt or innocence determination. And then there's the sentencing part of the trial. In this case, this was the, factual or not, that first part of the trial that, then that one was pretty widely reported on either. You can call it what you want, and depending, I'm sure there's different opinions out there on it of either stonewalling or not complying or saying, no, I do not agree with the way you're going about this kind of thing. But particularly the shooting in the foot kind of aspect of this here, there was then also later on during this, not the sentencing, but the damages part of the trial, that would be most appropriate for this civil proceeding as it happened, was that he then apparently unintentionally sent the entire contents download of all of his text messages from his phone, including correspondence with his attorneys and other things, to opposition counsel. So to the ones that representing the parents that were suing him. So, I mean, if you don't like the way it went forward, that's entirely your prerogative. But
he sent the information to his opponents.
Yeah.
Opponent counsel. I haven't read that anywhere, but I'm if that's true, then I'm mistaken.
So just looking at what's a good okay, Business Insider dated August 3rd, 2022. Alex Jones, it was his lawyer, accidentally sent the contents of Jones's phone, revealing InfoWars Financial and texts he claims didn't exist, according to the attorney for Sandy Hook's the parents of the Sandy Hook group.
Okay, then he's an idiot. Okay, all right. I'll look that up. Can you tell me where I can find that?
I mean, just that was just one of the first most concise ones that came up when I just did a basic Google search of Alex Jones phone sent, and there'll be a number of different articles that'll end up coming up out of that.
Alex Jones phone what?
Phone, and I just put sent, or you could look opposition or Sandy Hook. I mean, just search Alex Jones phones, and you'll probably see if that even comes up that way. You'll probably find that. Yep, right. That one comes up that way too.
And I appreciate the information, and I'm sorry I made that statement. Then he's an idiot. I think if he would have stayed, silent on things, and he would have right to go to the Supreme Court for, challenge his right to free speech. But if he voluntarily did it, then he's an idiot. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I hope everybody will, just Google Tucker Carlson on Twitter and listen to his conversations with these people. Have you done that by any chance?
I've mostly done clips on them here. I mean, we focus a lot of this stuff, of course, locally and affecting us locally here. But particularly, I've been seeing a lot about his most recent one with Orban, Hungary, and stuff like that. So that's on my to-do list, essentially.
Yeah, be sure to do that. Listen to the full I mean, they're 45 minutes about the same, and they have a lot of information that we're not being told on mainstream media, the legacy media here in the United States.
Fair enough here. Well, do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Stay well, stay safe. God bless. And let's go, Brandon.
All right. And with that, let's go ahead and take that first break of this hour right now. You are, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are just breaking the seal, launching into the continuation of Free for All Friday. So more comments coming in there as well. But of course, if you want to get on the phone line, those lines open up throughout both hours of the show, even with this bit of the first one shaved off. We're going to continue on with it. So, want to call in that number, of course, to do so. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Ruli's International Kitchen, way more than just a great little gourmet dive. They're always posting about some of the new things they're working on. Check them out over, if you're with us, over on the social media. They definitely have a lot of interesting ones, including their new feature, Fry Bread Taco. Often looking at those fusion flavors, new features, always stuff on the front board whenever you walk in there. So then, of course, don't miss out on their brunch every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 with its own special menu. But whenever time you go in there, it's always a good time to go. And again, see those great, both familiar and international gourmet flavors. Literally catered my wedding. And we've been going back, of course, ever since, but definitely before that as well. So you can, of course, find them over online, rulisik.com. That's rulisik.com for all the details. Or, of course, just find them on the street, 4176 North Mesa, not too far from Mesa and Executive or Executive and I-10. Just head over then to Mesa or give them a call. Make your reservation for the everyday occasion or those special celebrations, as we often do. 915-313-4806. That's 915-313-4806. Ruli's International Kitchen.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We have some bumper-to-bumper traffic on the spur westbound between Patriot Freeway and the U.S.-Mexico border. It does look like that is about a 10-minute delay. We also have an accident blocking 2 right lanes on I-10 eastbound at Lee Trevino Drive. It looks like that's about a 7-minute delay. And the connecting roadway is closed on I-10 westbound at Trans Mountain. I'm Nia Allen with El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with a stable security system from Mazer Security Alarms. Your trusted El Paso security expert since 1982. You can get the best. Systems start at under $35 per month with upfront purchase to lease options and $0 down payment packages available. Get the peace of mind you deserve with Mazer Security Alarms. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
Good news, El Paso. The WorkSafe Texas Summit is coming, and it's absolutely free. You don't want to miss this exciting opportunity to get important information that can help you protect your workers. Texas Mutual Insurance Company's innovative safety event features panel discussions, safety materials, and more. It's free, it's informative, and we're even providing breakfast. So join us from 8 to 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte. Register at texasmutual.com/summit.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. When a restaurant closes, my reaction is, that sucks. They had good steak. When regional banks close or 3 of them close overnight, it freaks me out. This is why I have my own personal gold reserve. It's part of my personal protection plan. Call my friends at Oxford Gold Group. Call 833-404-GOLD. 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 That's 833-404-GOLD.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or at twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in, dropping those likes and reacts and adding their 2 cents. So particularly, it's primarily over on the Facebook page, but we do have James Ratcliffe, Jim McGravy, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, RJ, and Ida Beza Gardner, letting us know they appreciate at least the ability, that's the way I take it anyway, to talk about the things going on, of course, here in the borderland and beyond, particularly today, because it's Free For All Friday and all that good stuff, meaning that we're taking on all those subjects, which is why, well, dare I say sacred institution traditions? It's probably getting a little bit too close to it, but well, speaking of some of those, there, Rick Reyes mentioning a happy Labor Day weekend. St. Anthony's Bazaar happening Saturday through Monday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Gorditas, enchiladas, flautas, see you there. That just as a recent good way to also mention a programming note that we are, of course, going to be taking off Monday there as well. We will have some holiday appropriate replacement programming, but we'll be then back live in the studio on Tuesday. Do have some slightly extended time out of the studio that as we get a little bit closer to that pin, we'll get you more details on, but that's just for Monday. Don't worry about that one, but a lot of events going on, so hope you all take this. I think our news partners at KFOX 14 and the weather update we got today, referring to it as the unofficial end of summer, which would be for everyone else. I mean, I guess comparison to middle of May, June, those July heat wave moments, sure, should be a little bit cooler by being just in the 90s as opposed to the full triple digits. But I still say we basically have summer, slightly less summer, and then that 2-week trial period of winter we get every year, slightly extended sometimes, depending on if we forgot to enter or cancel the credit card information or not. Also, we all have Edgar Ortiz on board with us there over on the social media. But of course, we are taking those phone calls here and do have phone lines available. That number to call in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And a few comments back and forth, some in general favor of Alex Jones, some not in favor of him, and discussion back and forth. I'll just say this, whenever it comes to defamation and trials for it, and just trials in general, you don't mess with judges. Let me just put it that way, either in talking about them or not complying with court orders. I mean, tell me about almost any other type of official that can just decide you're going to jail today, the whole contempt of court thing. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm the most up on all of the discovery process and the years that trial took to move forward with, but I mean, a summary judgment, the way I take it is that for most things that happen in a courtroom, particularly when they may be considered extraordinary, the main factors that go into it is how much CYA is in place, covering your posterior, that is, with a different last acronym letter. Point is, of how much would this be something that could then blow back on any officials involved, the judge in this case, and would it be overturned on appeal, being any semblance of preference, exclusion, etc. So I'm sure that there are, and there's certainly even in the comments, some opinions on their back and forth, but I mean, just at a certain point, there's, of course, legal games that can be played. Anyone who has had cause to deal with courts, law, etc., will be familiar with that, or even just the way that is semi-accurately related to in popular media, your cop or courtroom drama shows. But still, you just, from my personal experience, you don't mess with judges and court orders. That's just my personal opinion on it. Anyway, getting back to those phone lines now. Again, that number 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
I just heard Befuddled Ben. Well, maybe I didn't hear him clearly, but is he saying that you and everybody else out there in the Southwest border region should tune in and love Alex Jones. Is that what he said?
We discussed Alex Jones, but he was more, I guess, encouraging people to listen to Tucker Carlson's Twitter series.
Oh, by the gods of old. Ben, by the gods of old, Ben, listen, you sound like an old guy, all right? But coming up with this guy, you're a basket case. And if you don't clean up your act, you're not going to land in a happy space. That's what I'm going to say. Now, let me say this. I can't get over this. This nonsense about the economy is so bad, eggs are this, and bread is this, and gas is this. I just saw, when I was at my beer mill, I was watching TV, and they said 147 million Americans are traveling over the what do you call it thing, the Labor Day weekend.
Oh, sure.
Now, wait a minute. Time out. Plus, a huge millions and millions are taking airplanes. And the last time I checked, an airplane ticket, I don't care where it is more than a carton of eggs. So how does this work where you people, and I don't know, whomever out there, conservative kooks out there complaining about the economy, yet 147 million people have got enough money to go spending $300,000, $400,000, $2,000 for an airplane ticket, plus everything else, regarding to vacation pay? Answer me that. That's my first comment.
So, I take your point about how all these people are flying, and I don't think it's, some of the numbers I was looking at is about flights scheduled, and that doesn't immediately translate to immediate numbers, but Thursday was, according to the AP anyway, expected to be the busiest day in U.S. airspace in recent months and years, even with 52,000 flights. Today, there was about just over 49,000, and then similar numbers coming back on then Monday and Tuesday after that. So, yeah, there is, and specifically 14 million passengers from Friday through Wednesday. So some of those are going to be, people on either end of the trip there. But, I mean, that's certainly a lot of people. Now, the way I take this, and part of the difference there is about, a certain particular expense. And I'm not in the class of just being or considering buying a, ticket on a whim, just saying, you know what, I'll go over to this place, even if there are some adoringly cheap rates or what have you. But I mean, some people, this is the time of them maybe saving up for it and being able to do that. So that's one thing. And certainly maybe could take it as an indication. I don't know how deep I would take it. And also then the differences between that and then constant expenses, right? What goes into your household, what then goes out of your grocery budget, because you can choose to fly or not, do it if you want to. But when it comes to eating, there isn't a whole lot of maybe some people do, unfortunately, say, you know what, I guess I have to skip a meal. Now, are these the same groups of people, the ones flying and the ones that are having to consider that one? Probably not. But still, the concerns that come along with it, and prices are never really going to come down. They may fluctuate, but we're never going to see going back to value menu pricing anymore. And I think that is a more, both, of course, in the budgetary concern, but existential concern going forward of, am I making enough to still be kind of living the way I want to, given the way that everything is more expensive? And I don't think that's going away anytime soon, if ever.
Oh, wait a minute. There's a disconnect here. Between smart people saying where the economy is, which is relatively okay based on everything going on, and then the right-wing nut jobs out there say the whole Chicken Little, the sky is full and stuff. Now, this is nuts. I just heard what you said. Yeah, folks, they can save up some money. Instead of buying eggs, they'll put away a couple of dollars so they can go visit grandpa or somebody like that, right? Okay, that's one. But wait a minute. Let's go out there and say that the economy is so bad that it just flies in the face of credulity because of the fact that 147 million people are traveling. Give me a break. Now, number two, I heard, and I can't get over this, and this follows on segues to what I said yesterday. Harris County, and Houston, people out there. Your people out there in Texas have decided to drop or cancel or destroy an elective office or election office, if you will, in Houston. This is nothing but in your face denial of people's ability to vote. Now, what do you think of that?
I mean, yeah, the state law, one of the ones that came into effect today, that is abolishing the Harris County Elections Office. It is definitely one of the more contentious laws. I would say it's noted by even just a few headlines here. But among other things with this, I would say, well, the base level considerations is that this does come from part of the 2020 and some of the state level efforts. You could see this in the same vein of Texas removing itself from an interstate compact that was about essentially checking voter rolls to make sure someone wasn't registered and therefore voting in a couple of places at once, those kind of things. But I mean, I don't think it would be totally unfair to call this a little bit of a retaliatory thing, particularly after there was, I mean, going into the election, there was certain injunctions, court orders, things being filed under, law courts and law against that office, particularly when it came to the sending out of vote by mail applications. That was one of the more contentious things I recall happening in recent years.
Well, I think this whole situation is just sick. I don't know. It's been said a number of times that the many conservative kooks out there, they can't win legitimately, so they got to cheat. Now, what kind of thing is? I mean, you are denying so many people the right to get out there and cast their ballot, however it may be. And I don't want to hear all the ins and outs. Oh, it's a bad ballot, or you didn't show up, or you this, or I don't care. Shutting down an election office because you think that's going to help. Not you, you know what I'm talking, universal you. It's going to help you because your lousy, stinking policies are no good. This is ridiculous. One last thing. I saw yesterday on your Facebook page, you get the comment people, they make comments we respond to. You know that thing I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I saw somebody by the name of James Ratliff, somebody like that. So James Ratliff. And he got it in my face about, hey, why is Messiah Frankie talking about everything going on in El Paso instead of talking about stuff in Messiah? Well, guess what? And I've mentioned this before. There's nothing happens in Messiah. The only thing that's happening is in Texas and El Paso. And that's why I'm calling. I'm sorry you were offended by that. But there's nothing happening down here in Messiah. So there you go. That's it.
Okay, I guess that's as fair a point as any. And I mean, we don't say that, no, you can only count on your particular geographic area. So I mean, that's not one of our limits here. I mean, we do try to keep it to during the rest of the week what is either going on here or directly affecting us in this area. I mean, certainly there's speculation that could happen. But and James Ratcliffe chiming in on the Facebook thing, I didn't say Messiah, I said New Mexico. Overall, I think his point was, not to put words in his mouth, can certainly speak for himself, was why be more concerned about what's going on in Texas than in New Mexico in its own right, which, I mean, is maybe a fair point in its own right, but also you can't, I mean, we talk about both sides of the borderland and both sides of the border, international one, it's on its own right, because it's all part of our region. So, I mean, I took it as fair, of course, and by no means is there any prohibition on looking over across to your neighbors to the north or south, depending on where you are.
Okay, I got that. All right, James, fine. I'll talk about New Mexico. But you want to be bored to death that in Albuquerque there's a balloon festival, or down there in Hatch they're going to have a chili fight off. You think that's exciting? Give me a break. I'm talking about serious stuff that's impacting the United States of America, and most of it's happening in your state of Texas. So I'm going to keep on talking. And by the way, are you going to be on Monday?
No, we will be off on Monday out of the office here. We actually have some other events we're going to be at more or less during our show time, so we will have some of our holiday-appropriate fill-in programming.
Well, I'm going to be very sad about that, but I want you to enjoy your weekend, have a good time, and I'll call you on Tuesday. Have a good one.
We'll be back then. Well, thank you very much for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and take that next break right now, and some other comments coming in, including Dorlitz Tor responding, and RJ to Frankie. We popped them up on screen, but we'll get to those those comments, and more of the calls here in just a minute. Of course, that number to do so, if you want to get on the line, is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Hammer and Nails, one of El Paso's newest men's grooming destinations, offering a whole lot of services, literally head-to-toe coverage when it comes to good grooming, looking and feeling great in comfort, privacy, and it's just a pretty lush experience. That's why they, of course, have their Club Luxe, Luxe, that they have now debuted for one monthly price. Get unlimited services and even bring a friend along there. Was able to stop by there today because, of course, had to give out that gift card for the giveaway we did earlier in this week. So, again, congrats to David on that one. We will be doing more giveaways in this month now, so stay tuned for that. We'll probably post a sneak preview on what's going on our social media, so be sure to keep a weather eye out there if you can, if you want to be in the know. But in any case, you can, of course, make your appointment, club or not, and get their premium services, just like I have, to keep, again, the hair on my head looking good, because that's apparently people looking on me online with that one. So if you want to make it super simple, just took me a couple of minutes my first time to make that appointment and be good to go. hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammer, A-N-D, nailsgrooming.com. No, not a hardware store, but a great way to keep yourself looking and feeling good. Head-to-toe services, hammerandnailsgrooming.com.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki. A Las Cruces man has been found guilty in connection to the death of a 2-year-old girl. The jury handing down the sentence to Lalo Castillo on Friday. He faces a 30-year sentence right now. El Paso police officers responding to a burglary at the Wells Fargo Bank in downtown El Paso on Kansas Street. It happened early Friday morning. No word yet if there was anyone arrested at this point or if anyone was hurt. Police are investigating right now after a man was stabbed to death in Canutillo. It happened Thursday night on 6th Street. Police say this is an isolated incident, but they are treating it as a homicide, and the investigation is ongoing. With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
We still have that accident blocking 2 right lanes on I-10 eastbound at Lee Trevino Drive. It does look like it's in the process of getting cleared up. We also have some stop-and-go traffic on I-10 westbound between Thorn Avenue and Trans Mountain with a 15-minute delay. And some stop-and-go traffic on the spur westbound between Patriot Freeway and the U.S.-Mexico border with a 10-minute delay. I'm Nia Allen with El Paso Traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Partly cloudy skies, breezy conditions for your Monday as we go a little hotter with a high around 100 degrees, and it looks like we will stay storm-free this Labor Day weekend. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles. Wendy's new Breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles lets you choose from your fave 4, including a sausage or egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, or medium hot coffee. Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
Paid for by government.com. Have you heard? Morgan's silver dollars are back for 2023. For the 100th anniversary, the U.S. Mint released the first legal tender Morgans in 100 years. They sold out instantly. Now, Morgan's silver dollars are back in 2023, minted in 99.9% pure silver, but only 275,000 coins were minted, and they will go fast. The entire market and experts agree this is a big deal and an amazing opportunity for both coin and silver buyers. Just call 1-800-473-0864. And you are guaranteed a 2023 brand new uncirculated 99.9% pure silver Morgan dollar. But with limited quantities, you must call now. To learn more, call 1-800-473-0864. Plus, you'll receive a free bonus Patriots pack, new and improved, a $25 value free with every order. Call 1-800-473-0864 now to secure your new 2023 Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-473-0864.
Is foot pain keeping you from living life to its fullest? Would you like to come home from work ready to go instead of ready to rest your feet? Life's too short to be dealing with foot, knee, or back pain. Come into the Good Feet store and learn how the Good Feet arch support system can help you get pain-free.
Want to save on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom blinds, shades, and shutters at prices less than big box retailers. Order 10 free samples of any product and we'll ship them to you for free. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, where most of the comments come in anyway, but certainly not to the exclusion of others. Like we do have Marco for Mayor saying hi, y'all, over on the YouTube page, and other comments coming in a little bit earlier, primarily over on the Twitch stream and others. Twitter's more of like a DM type thing, but if you find us there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, or X, technically, Twitter, yeah, whatever. The website formerly known as Twitter. Maybe you'll stick with that one for a while. In any case, it's still twitter.com for crying out loud. Anyway, a lot of other things being talked about and going on and happening in our area, but a lot of things being also mentioned there. A couple of things in response to Frankie, among other things, like our Dorlit store, saying, Frankie, let me tell you, this economy is killing me and my family. I work so hard and I'm just scraping by. Speak for yourself. Who's the nut job? And others, including RJ, saying, hey, Frankie, if you see this, Zero Hedge published an article and showed the numbers on job loss and more. Bidenomics is a disaster and the economy is in free fall. And James Ratcliffe, specifically to Frankie, replied to the commentary anyway, saying, I think jobs in New Mexico that were lost because of Frankie's governor is a big deal. So again, I'll just say this, that cross-border talk is, of course, we're broadcasting all of these areas. And a different one, just one other note here is an interesting one, including Richard Janicek saying Frankie would have had a lot to talk about if New Mexico had been successful in annexing EP County in the late 60s. That's one I hadn't heard of. I was aware of that, particularly when, the annexation of Texas happened about that time. So looking back into the earlier 1800s, that when that decision was made, sure, the Rio Grande, part of Texas, all that stuff, there was a decision that was apparently possible. It's a little bit apocryphal to find the exact records on, but if El Paso would stay part of Texas or New Mexico, particularly at that time, before even railroads were in this area anyway, we were much closer physically, culturally, economically to New Mexico or New Mexico territory at that point than Texas. But El Paso just apparently decided to go, at least the story goes, with Texas because it was going to be a state and New Mexico was only going to be a territory, bears powers, advantages, etc., coming along with that. Now, that's, again, the story. If El Paso had become part of New Mexico, this is like in the complete historical fiction kind of way. This is not me either espousing it, saying that I want it to happen, or thinking that it would be in any way, shape, or form viable to do so, because I don't see that happening. And the best thing I've heard of coming out of that, or at least the proposition, would be like, okay, fine. New Mexico, you want El Paso, Texas will take Carlsbad Caverns, which is both like, okay, it's a famous thing, but also a little bit hurtful, I do have to say, because it's thinking like, so you'd rather have a hole in the ground than us? Thanks, my dude, or whoever I'm talking to at that point in time. But if El Paso was part of New Mexico, we would be the largest city in New Mexico, the biggest economy by far in New Mexico, and probably paid a little bit more attention to by the government of New Mexico. Back during this dates it for me here during the Susana Martinez administration, which again, not espousing that one, the amount of visits that the governor did to particularly the Santa Teresa area, which I gestured that way because it's vaguely over to my left if I were to fly as a grow. But point is that there's not, there have been visits, but for just like ribbon cuttings and business openings, not so much of that happening in our region from the Texas governor. Now, of course, the size of the states, the other things they have going on. And so, okay, there's just way too many details to go into there. But I'm just saying, as a what if kind of situation, it's an interesting one to at least think about. And other responses coming too, like Richard Janicek saying, yeah, more pot shops, as well as Edgar Ortiz saying, to say that Texas would have given an inch to go to New Mexico is just ridiculous. Yeah, probably. Well, Let me put it this way. When Texas was annexed, there was actually quite a lot of land that was given up, including like half of what became New Mexico. Think about it. So if you look at a map of New Mexico, that basically everything east of the Rio Grande was technically initially claimed by Texas. And that's why you have, there's even a story about how the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas came to be that is kind of included in that. But basically everything, okay, for simplicity's sake, let's just say east of I-25, and then a little bit further up as you go north, was part of Texas. And so Texas, because one of the reasons it said, hey, can we be a state now? This is me hypersimplifying, so don't come at me for this. They had huge debts. So yeah, there was actually a lot of land that was formerly Texas that went to New Mexico, and I think that's at least part of the conversation about, again, as the apocryphal story goes. So, but other commentary, including Eric Von Holstein-Rathlow saying, I didn't move to El Paso to be anything less than a Texan. So again, not espousing this. This is not me saying, hey guys, I'm saying we should be part of New Mexico. I just said that now, and someone's going to clip that and make me look like an idiot. Well, okay, just know I hate you if you do that. But more specifically, I mean, we're possibilities in history. And I will say this, there is, I've done the research on this in previous years, we'll have to look it up again. There is, or at least the concept of a provision in, it's not the Texas state constitution, but I think it was part of the annexation documents for Texas within the United States, of being able to, as it was a huge chunk of land, and you look at all the states east of us, and they are a lot smaller. And so that being such a huge part of land that was part of the annexation documents, to my understanding, I'll have to double check again to be 100% certain, included the possibility that Texas could subdivide into, I believe, up to 5 separate states. So not calling that one particularly possible at this time. Can you imagine the amount of heads being blown right open in DC and across the country of considering that the area currently known as Texas, if it was suddenly to have 5 times the amount of senators? Yeah, if you you think the Supreme Court debate has been a bad one, that one would be nuts. So again, not saying that one's possible, even if it does technically exist in some form, format, document, etc. But these are the interesting things when you start delving into aspects of history and how we got where we are now. We do have a lot of calls in the line here. I'm not saying that over this, but it's an interesting one, and one that maybe thought about a little bit too much. Trader Sack asking specifically, did New Mexico territory originally include the entire state of Arizona and parts of Nevada? That's a whole damn history show, I got to be honest with you, because we've actually done part of that when we're talking about the mapping of this region that we have done previously. But I will say that, yeah, you start getting into the purchases of it, the part that came from, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and then, of course, the Gadsden Purchase. So, I mean, it was one big chunk. It was all, both in, originally New Spain, then parts of Mexico, and then got to be down to the line where it is. There's a lot of history in our maps, guys. I don't know if you know this. It may kind of sound obvious when you say it, but the way that they got where they are and the way that they are, there's been sometimes, that they've been set via popular campaign, 54-40 or fight, to really delve back into it. But seriously, it gets complicated, and to me anyway, fascinating. So don't worry, this is not turning into the history radio show, but you get me on a tangent, and you just reap what you sow here. Anyway, get into those phone lines. We do have Bill in Central on the line with us here right now. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, they're talking about the last election, which was 2020. The Republicans, I do believe they stole that election from Al Gore, and I do believe that Hillary's election was stolen.
2000
states that Biden won in the 2020 elections, Hillary lost. But I think votes were taken away from. And they don't learn their lesson. Remember, after Bush Jr. took office, there was they went to war against Afghanistan. That was a disaster, and they lost. And the war against Iraq was a disaster, and they lost. Even though a lot of them don't want to admit it, but they did lose that war. And also don't forget that Texas was stolen from Mexico because they put a gun on Santana's head. And they told him, Texas or your life, because I saw that movie, and Santana gave away Texas, and they gave him money for it, and he kept it, and also New Mexico and California, and they were stolen. So you are not. You're sitting down in occupied Mexico. That's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell those conservatives. So have a great day, man. Okay. Bye-bye.
Sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call there. Do appreciate it. I mean, it's an interesting way of considering it here. I mean, okay, there has, of course, a national conversation has existed about, primarily in reference to like Native American land, you exist on tribal land, those kind of statements that come around here. And so not exactly what you're talking about, but corollary to it, I guess, would say is that some of the response has been about how, no, not stolen, conquered. It's different. And I'm not sure that's a good line either, but I will say that a military contest, I mean, okay, anytime that being a justification for something is, kind of goes into the victors write the history books kind of analogy there. But I will say that given the way Mexico handled things, I mean, there are, immigration changes that happen in areas when new people come in and settle it. And whatever you may think of it and the state of Texas as it exists and how it came to be about, I'm not going to necessarily come down and being like, you know what, you're right, Santa Anna was stolen, considering he historically speaking wasn't exactly a great and just dude in his own right. But I'll just say this, that if any of these things had come to pass, Texas not exiting, or even Texas on entering the U.S., the Mexican-American War having gone differently, there has been, and frankly, there was even the possibility, if you want to get right down to it, of there not even being a country of Mexico had the U.S. decided. I mean, they occupied DF, Mexico City, at one point. So there has been, the history gets complicated, y'all. There's nothing about history that is not particularly complicated in my mind. So, I mean, there was Texans, there were Texians, if you want to be right down to brass tacks on it. And even as Tritosek mentioning Tejanos who didn't like Santa Anna, there was a lot of people who didn't like Santa Anna, even within his own country and technically who he ruled over. I'm just going to put it that way. But I'll just say that it exists the way that it does now. And if you want to go and live and be in those other places or under the administration, there's nothing really stopping you. Not a love it or leave it kind of thing. But I'm just saying that also a lot of those things and recognitions of particularly native land, the land back conversations just kind of end up being kind of feckless to me. I just got to say that, because saying, well, we recognize it is like, okay, cool. You recognize it. You wanted to do something about it. What are you doing about it? Oh, nothing. We're just recognizing it, which is kind of like giving a high five and be like, yeah, you went through some trauma, bud. So yeah. Anyway, we got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls in the line and many different points. I'm never quite sure what's going to happen on a Friday, and this seems to be an exemplary one in terms of my lack of certainty about what the hell is going to happen next. So we'll keep it going. So if you want to get on that line, there are lines available, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Mazer Security Alarms in El Paso, and doing their certified and reliable installations with, again, actually qualified techs, which is always something you need to make sure is happening with something as important as security at your home, office, or anywhere in between that you want safety and peace of mind provided for you. Mazer Security Alarms brings all of that to the table and a whole lot more, literally developing new technology such as Super Switch technology to prevent false alarms and keep your business and family safe. Again, in El Paso, doing this work for 41 plus years now. You can, of course, ask them about the $690 discount to find out, well, what they can bring for you, or in any case, to give them a call and get your free estimate with no job too small or too large. 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We have a new accident reported at Cimarron Plaza and Cimarron Square. It does look like that is about a 10-minute delay. We also have some slow traffic on I-10 eastbound between Cotton Street and Yarborough Drive with a 5-minute delay. And some bumper-to-bumper traffic on I-10 westbound between Thorn Avenue and Trans Mountain with a 10-minute delay. I'm Nia Allen with El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Dell Technologies and Intel are pushing what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Every day, you breathe in thousands of microscopic germs, allergens, and viruses.
Don't let these invisible invaders make breathing through your nose impossible. Flush them out with Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril around the back of the nose and out the other nostril, helping flush out all the nasty things that make you miserable. Nearly 4 million people use Navage to breathe better, snore less, and feel healthier. People like Cindy, a verified Navage user who writes, "I've had such awful nasal congestion for the last couple of years. I bought Navage and OMG, I can breathe again. I love this thing. Goodbye, Neti Pot. Hello, Navage." End quote. If you suffer from sinus congestion, allergies, or snoring, then Navage is the safe, drug-free solution you've been looking for. Navage is at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and Navage.com. Navage. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Hey, Sean Hannity here from my friends at Lone Star Transfer. If you felt like booking your timeshare was difficult in the past, you know it's recently been almost impossible. Now, most clients are shocked to learn that their timeshare is now available to the public, and that severely limits booking options. Now, many owners have also reached out, and they're upset that their yearly dues have nearly doubled during the maintenance fee season. Now, for well over a decade, our friends at Lone Star Transfer, a family-owned company, they have had the pleasure of helping thousands and thousands of people legally and permanently get out of their never-ending timeshare fees. Now, Lone Star Transfer guarantees the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. Call my good friends for a free, no-obligation consultation. Write this down. Call today, 833-594-0075. 833-594-0075. They're online at LoneStarTransfer.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com, and I sell custom blinds designed for do-it-yourselfers. Unlike stock blinds offered at big box retailers, Blindster blinds are custom-made for your windows, and shipping is free. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Ooh, really pushing it towards the end of the hour here right now. So you're, of course, listening to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are barely out of time here for this hour, but don't worry, we got the whole second hour on deck for you here. So keeping it up, taking those comments, calls, and maybe debating more history. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's free-for-all Friday, y'all. That's how this goes and how this works. So if you want to do that, lines are full up at the moment, but keep that phone number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTS. One comment I'll say here, Trita Sack saying, history is complicated, but it's so cool. Great phrase and understatement of the century, I got to say there. So talking about this and a whole lot more, like one example, try to look up like the 60 Years' War in Europe or the 100 Years' War and enjoy the history PhD you're going to get in the progress of trying to understand all of that, or even like the French Revolution. Anyway, you got to take that break right now. Back after this break, Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We still have that ongoing accident at Cimarron Plaza and Cimarron Square. It does look like that is about a 10-minute delay. We also have some stop-and-go traffic on I-10 westbound between Thorn Avenue and Trans Mountain with a 7-minute delay, and some stop-and-go traffic on the spur westbound between Patriot Freeway and Paisano Drive with an 8-minute delay. I'm Nia Allen with El Paso Traffic.
Looking for reliable and affordable coverage for your home systems and appliances? Choose Choice Home Warranty. With over 25,000 contractors, 24/7 support, and 5-star ratings, awarded Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by U.S. News 360 Reviews. Trust them to protect your home from breakdowns for less than a cup of coffee a day. Call 1-844-674-5971 now for a free quote. That's 1-844-674-5971. Limitations apply. Visit choicehomewarranty.com for details.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, September 22nd and 23rd.
The most unforgettable weekend
News
of
on
music
the hour
on
and
the
a half.
planet.
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio
AXS.com.
690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. More than 14 million people are expected to pass through the nation's airports this Labor Day weekend. AAA's Andrew Gross says although bookings for both domestic and international trips are up from last year, those big end-of-summer family trips don't really factor into that equation.
Labor Day weekend may just be kind of like a little 3-day getaway, if at all. They may stay closer to home, go visit family, or go to a nearby beach or a nearby theme park.
The TSA is bracing for a high volume of travelers Friday through Wednesday, September 6th. President Biden will be in Florida tomorrow after the state got hit by Hurricane Idalia this week. The president told reporters today he plans to meet with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's seeking the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. A Trump co-defendant in the Georgia election case is pleading not guilty to racketeering and conspiracy charges. Kenneth Chesebro, who's charged with orchestrating the so-called fake elector scheme, pleaded not guilty and waived his arraignment in the criminal case today. He's accused of outlining a plan to have alternate presidential electors cast their votes for Donald Trump in states won by Joe Biden in the 2020 election. X may be collecting your biometric and employment data. Lisa Taylor has more.
The social media platform, formerly known as Twitter, said this week in an update to its privacy policy that based on users' content, they may collect the information for safety, security, and identification purposes. It also said it may collect data about employment preferences, skills, job search activity, and other information. And for subscribers to X Premium, the company will allow paying customers to provide a government ID and photo for verification purposes.
At the closing bell, the Dow Jones gained 115 points to 34,837. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. President Biden is praising the latest jobs report. While speaking from the White House today, the president said his economic plan is working to create jobs and drive down inflation. Biden said his administration created more than 13 million jobs since he took office, including 800,000 manufacturing jobs and those lost during the COVID pandemic. New Jersey Transit's locomotive engineers have voted to strike over stalled pay talks, but the railroad is telling riders a walkout could be months away. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
They drive the trains that shuttle nearly 150,000 people between New York and New Jersey every day. But despite the unanimous strike vote, NJ Transit says there will be no disruption to service this Labor Day weekend or anytime soon. It's assuring riders that a court injunction will prevent that and that the Railway Labor Act mandates that workers remain on the job while contract talks are underway. NJT says mediation is ongoing. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
A new biography of Elon Musk claims the billionaire thinks his transgender daughter is a communist. Michael Kastner has the details.
An excerpt of the upcoming biography by Walter Isaacson was published Thursday in the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about Elon Musk's relationship with his 19-year-old child, who legally changed her gender to female last year. She also changed her name and said in court filings that she no longer wishes to be related to Musk. In the book, the Tesla CEO calls his daughter a full communist who thinks anyone rich is evil and blames her politics on the private school she attended.
It's glory days at MetLife Stadium. New Jersey's native son, 73-year-old Bruce Springsteen, has 2 more shows at the arena this holiday weekend. He played his first show Wednesday night and will hit the stage again this evening and again Sunday. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Yeah! Text the nationwide keyword FESTIVAL to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's FESTIVAL to 200-200.
Win your way to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival and $1,000.
Oh, man, that is great. You'll be there.
T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Brought to you by T-Mobile. Experience more of the music you love with the record-breaking 5G network. T-Mobile customers can unlock VIP benefits at the festival all weekend long. It's better over here. See why at T-Mobile.com/SEEWHY.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Staples. Staples has great prices on everything you need for back to school. Right now, a 24-pack of Crayola crayons and comp books are just 50 cents each, and select notebooks are just 35 cents each. In-store only. Offer ends 9/16. Limit 30. School on save on at Staples.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with a stable security system from Mazer Security Alarms. Your trusted El Paso security expert since 1982. You can get the best. Systems start at under $35 per month with upfront purchase to lease options and $0 down payment packages available. Get the peace of mind you deserve with Mazer Security Alarms. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Why is iHeartRadio the #1 streaming radio app? Free music.
Free live radio stations from all over the country.
Free podcasts. Free playlists. Free contests.
Free artist radio stations.
Commercial-free stations. It's free. I love iHeartRadio. Join the millions of music, radio, and podcast fans on the #1 streaming radio app now.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. Free never sounded so good.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversations and different points being brought up, both about history, politics. Did I see a supply issue? I mean, economy certainly as well. Just so much to say that I'm not totally sure about the track of some of it would also be an understatement. But hey, that's Friday for y'all. Free for all Friday. That's what we call it, and why we have those phone lines open, if full of at the moment, throughout both hours of the program. Getting into hour 2 here right now. We certainly appreciate those dropping those likes and reacts, including Richard Janisic, Rick Reyes, Buddy Valles, James Ratcliffe, Jim McCravey, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, RJ, and Ida Beza Gardner. I mean, that's just mainly on the Facebook page. So there are a lot of ways you can get at us, including, of course, that phone line. Again, full up, but keep the number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some back and forth, including, I put this one on screen, but I didn't read it yet. Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying, I do realize that if Texas was a house, El Paso would be the outdoor plumbing. It'll just say we're an afterthought for the rest of Texas would be an understatement in its own right, but also more accurate than I would like it to be. In any case, there's a lot more things and conversations going on there, including the idea of the purpling of the states, which has been being much vaunted over the years. And so I'll believe it when I see it. If anything, again, cloudy crystal ball time, things keep getting weirder. And we've seen back and forth on this, the breaking of the blue wall, so to speak, when it comes to southern Texas and just near the border parts of representatives here. So there's a lot to be said about the demographics and the changes we're seeing with it. But let's get back to those phone lines now. Again, we do have with us on the line Andrew on the west side with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. And once again, live long and prosper.
Okay, just to settle the debate here, is that what you said yesterday? I forgot to go back and check the tape.
Yes, sir, I did. And to Frankie out there, resistance is futile.
Okay, that's a different one and a different implication, but I appreciate the the Spock reference for at least towards me.
Yes. Anyway, one of the new laws that went into effect today, voter fraud has now increased in penalty to a second-degree felony in Texas.
Yeah, and that was kind of after, okay, what's during this? It must have been the previous legislative session, I do believe. Now it's getting a little bit murky in my head, that there was changes to that, but they ended up, in the progress of it, turning it into only a misdemeanor. And so that's, I guess, part of the rectification of what was essentially an oversight that the Texas legislature did last time, after there was particularly a lot of outcry about that.
Yeah, well, now it can get you up to 20 years in prison.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not calling it a great thing no, your voter fraud isn't that bad. I mean, it's definitely bad, though the focus on it here is also, of course, red meat for the base when it comes to that. So I'm not surprised that this move was taken.
Very true, very true. Now, going to New Mexico, one of the laws that did fail on the books, and here's one for Frankie, too, that he could bring up on Friday. Under Michelle Lujan Grisham's administration, they tried to impose an assault weapon ban in the state of New Mexico. Whatever their definition of an assault weapon was, I do not know, or is.
I remember going over it. I want to say, let me see. I'll have to look it up here in just a second. But what did you want to say about it?
Well, like I said, people have coined that phrase assault weapon. Well,
sure.
Actually, an assault weapon is a fully automatic weapon capable of select fire or full automatic fire, and fires at intermediate cartridge. Okay, and that's a U.S. Army's small arms definition of an assault weapon.
I would add one thing to that.
Definition was coined by Josh Sugarman, an anti-gunner, who said, "Well, if they think it's a machine gun or an assault weapon, they're not gonna know the difference, and they're gonna want its abolishment even more."
I'll add one thing to that definition, also the ability to accept a detachable magazine. I mean, all of these things pretty much within the Sturmgewehr 44 that was debuted by Germany back during World War II is kind of all of those features, as basic as they were at that point in time, are still what are some of the primary features we're talking about. So I do believe I found the one you're talking about. It was from the 56th legislature of the state of New Mexico, 2023 House Bill 101. The one that is entitled to an act relating to firearms, enacting the Assault Weapons Regulation Act, prohibiting assault weapon attachment, 50 caliber rifles, and 50 caliber cartridges. It keeps going on there. There's not like a short pithy name, but on the part of assault weapon and their definitions on that one. It says an assault weapon means any of the following firearms. 1, a semi-automatic rifle that has the capacity to accept a detachable magazine, or that may be readily modified to accept a detachable magazine if the firearm has one or more of the following: a pistol grip or thumbhole stock, a feature capable of functioning as a protruding grip that can be held by the non-trigger hand, folding, telescoping, thumbhole, or detachable stock, or a stock that is otherwise foldable or adjustable in any manner, that operates to reduce the length, size, or any other dimension, or otherwise enhances the concealability of the weapon, a flash suppressor, a grenade launcher, or a shroud attached to the barrel, or that partially or completely encircles the barrel, allowing that barrel to hold the firearm with a non-trigger hand without being burned, but excluding a slide that encloses the barrel. Then that's the major part of it. So that was one for what is the semi-automatic rifle with those features. There was further ones about a semi-automatic rifle that has a fixed magazine, a semi-automatic pistol, and when it comes to certain calibers, including being over 22. I mean, it goes on for several pages, so I'm not going to try to read all of it right now. It goes on for about 4 pages by my reckoning, but yes, it certainly was doing one of those definitions, and the features part of it, the so-called black rifle scary features, as has been referred to elsewhere, that is not the action, which is always a little bit baffling to me, I do have to admit.
Yes. Well, that's interesting. That how could a barrel shroud be dangerous? I mean, all it does is keep your hand from getting burned. And under their definition, you modify your Remington 7400 hunting rifle with any of those things. You now have an illegal weapon if the law had passed.
Yeah, and the definition part of grenade launcher would have to be an interesting one on its own right, I do have to say, because I want to say that when it comes to those, of course, ATF and the BAFTE part of it has interesting regulations on destructive devices. And no, you can't really civilianly own, 40 Mike, but you can do like the chalk rounds or those things that use the blank firing. So that one, I'm actually kind of surprised there isn't a little bit more on that part of the definition.
At one time, they even described an assault weapon as a rifle that could fire. Had a rocket launcher on it. Yeah, I'd like to see a rifle with a rocket launcher. You get killed by the back blast.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Yeah, really. But anyway, on to my next subject.
Sure.
You had a caller, I believe his name was Bill, that said we were in occupied Mexico. Am I correct?
Yeah, I believe that was part of what he said there. Yes.
Interestingly enough, I would call more Texas and what happened more of a revolution, with against Santa Ana, and then there was. Texas was not stolen from Mexico. It was purchased by treaty in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo.
I mean, sure. And that was, just for the context there, sure, it isn't a treaty and they did sign on to it while I do believe the U.S. Army was still occupying Mexico City. So I'm just saying, I get that part of the argument, but I also get that, no, not really. Because, it is referred to as the Texas Revolution, and basically, then the reason that it was then fought, the Mexican-American War, was because of what of the definition was Texas. Because as much as Texas had been enforcing its own, to a certain extent, its own borders and boundaries for those few decades there, that then what it actually was, because from the original settlement, the land grant given to Stephen of Austin and some of the first, Anglo settlers coming in that way, it was basically what we would just consider now very East Texas. So, yeah, there's a lot of consideration. Again, it gets complicated very quickly, but yes, it wasn't a treaty. And, well, as RJ puts it, under a little duress, not too much.
Well, put it this way, Santa Ana was not a very nice dude out there. He was not.
Okay, as much as the Alamo and the focus on it continues to be, a symbol of Texas in its own right, the Pyrrhic victory aspect of it and the I don't care what it takes and kind of case in point of the lack of regard. There's a whole lot of readings of history that can be done with it, but I'll just say this, that he had his own issues before and after that with his own governance. So this was just one of the many episodes of his quite storied, if misadventured filled life, better way to put it.
Well, true. Even with his own people, he wasn't the nice guy. After all, what's a little massacre among your people to keep them in control? That he seemed to govern in his dictatorial form like that.
Yeah, the whole concept of, to put it blithely, the beatings will continue until morale improves. Anyone actually trying to implement that is going to have a bad time.
Yeah, of course, you are going to have revolt, and yes, the people are going to get upset. And if you take Bill's argument to its logical conclusion, we in the United States, are we technically in occupied England?
Okay, with the whole revolution part of it there, and then potentially, or France or Russia, technically in parts of it as well.
Yes, sir. Anyway, Andrew, have a good weekend. Have a good Labor Day weekend. And once again, live long and prosper.
Do appreciate it. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there as well.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And with a couple other historical notes coming in there, being noted by Edgar Ortiz, that it's in the Marine Corps hymn, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, with some of those adventures being had right around that was the 19th century, now that I think about it. And Louis Pinato adding in, very true as well, beware of Montezuma's revenge. Don't still have some Pepto that I keep on me from some of those implications, even though it's been years. But in any case, let's go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls, we got more comments, and we do have lines available right now. So if you want to get on that line, of course, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Texas Mutual Insurance Company is bringing the WorkSafe Texas Summit to the El Paso area Tuesday, September 19th. That's this month, folks, at the Hotel Paso del Norte in downtown El Paso. They're going to be bringing safety and compliance information that can help their employers protect their workers. The free 2.5-hour event does come with free breakfast, and parking validation will be provided. So it's all there together for you. All you need to do is go and register because space is limited over at texasmutual.com/summit. That's texasmutual.com/summit. And make sure that you get everything you need there by September 12th. So again, 2 interactive Q&A sessions, including an OSHA and workplace safety panel discussions, along with helpful resources, safety materials, and opportunities to network with other business owners and safety professionals. And again, all of this happening at the Texas Mutual Insurance Company's WorkSafe Texas Summit, Tuesday, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte in downtown El Paso.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We have a new medical emergency reported at Hondo Pass Drive and Dyer Street. It does look like that is about a 10-minute delay. We also have some bumper-to-bumper traffic on I-10 westbound between Thorn Avenue and Trans Mountain with a 12-minute delay, and an ongoing accident at Cimarron Plaza and Cimarron Square with an 8-minute delay. I'm Nia Allen with El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Right now, during Labor Day savings at Lowe's, get up to $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 9/6. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
Or you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
It can happen so easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over. You lose your license. You total your car. You kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Endless Summer Sale, September 1st through the 11th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
It can happen so easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over. You lose your license. You total your car. You kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the program, particularly not just the point during the day, but during the week, because Free-for-All Friday, yeah, we're getting into it. And, of course, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And Talk El Paso, brought to you in part by Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. They do have their Labor Day regular service and sales hours, so be sure to find them with all those things, and including their Labor Day sales going on for you. They've got a whole lot of options, and find them, including deals with like employee pricing, low rates for well-qualified buyers. 950 Crockett Street, right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. And just the comments and the historical allusions and the very brave things like, as much as the mention of Montezuma's revenge coming up, RJ saying took a trip to Puebla by way of Mexico City on a bus back in the 70s, very familiar with his revenge. And yeah, it definitely happens. And I thought I was just good not drinking the water, like bottled, and then learning that I should have been asking for a Siniello the whole time was one thing that came to me later on. But Edgar Ortiz very bravely, and that's the word I'm going to choose to go with, brave, saying Montezuma's revenge, bring it. And I'll just echo what RJ says here. Careful what you wish for. There was a couple of years there that I had to have like Pepto just on my person at all times in case I was just going to be bound up for a while and not able to move out of part of it here. So if we're having any issues with the video, should be coming out fine. We'll double check it during this coming break, make sure we're not getting any lip flap, but try restarting the browser or the device you're watching or listening on. That's the best advice I can give there. But let's dive right back into those phone lines now. Again, that number to call, and there is a line available, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is the number to call. And we do have Marco in Central on the line with us here right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, man, I hate to call in and defend people that, well, they don't need defending.
Okay.
I'll say it like that. So on Alex Jones, okay, what happened is during discovery, the judge basically said, you did not give us all of the discovery, and they defaulted him, okay, which is, he stated that's a rare move. But that's how they do it now. And let me explain what I mean by that. So what happened to Rudy Giuliani yesterday in his case? The judge came out and said the same thing. You didn't give us all the discovery, bam, default you. How are you as an individual, okay, I'm being sued, you give them what they ask for, okay? The judge needs to presume a level of honesty, right? Because it's basically the scene from 1984 where it's like, no. See, I don't want you to tell me 2 + 2 = 4. I want you to believe 2 + 2 = 4. So these judges are just like, man, you're not giving us everything. And they're like, no, Your Honor, here's all the information. You're defaulted. And now they just skip over that whole section and go straight to you're guilty. And so they told Alex Jones, you cannot say you're innocent because you have been found guilty by me, not a jury of his peers, but by the judge. So he couldn't even defend himself. And this happened in Texas. This happened in the other places where he all got sued. And so Alex, in a way, is kind of like Niv Parnas, I think, is his attorney. He's a civil rights attorney. This is going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And you watch. The headline is going to be Alex Jones gets off, doesn't have to pay anything. Well, why did that happen? Because the judge, the knucklehead judge, defaulted Jones. And that's where you watch. That's where they're going to reverse these things. Just like in Georgia, right now, you're going to have these prosecution, right, of Donald Trump and all these attorneys. Okay? Donald Trump and 18 attorneys. Why are these attorneys being prosecuted? For giving Donald Trump advice. Okay? They're smashing through the attorney-client privilege. And so we say, no, that's fine. Well, no, that's not fine. Remember, the weapon used on V is going to be turned around and used on you. So you can accept it right now and be like, that's cool. Later on, when things change, and they do, those same assets, those same weapons, and that's what they are being used as, a weapon. This is the bad part about where we're at. This is why I'm eagerly pleading with everybody that I know, we should stop this. We shouldn't see this as normal. So when Chris Christie comes out and says we shouldn't normalize this, but he's talking to Donald Trump, and I'm like, dude, listen, Donald Trump can have his own ideas He can say his own things, okay? There are many people that do that are famous. I'll state some of them here that are on this network, okay? On this radio channel, and they're awesome.
Mm.
You used to have Art Bell.
Yeah.
You still have George Norrie. At one point, you had Alex Jones. Who else did you have? Oh, one of my favorites,
Okay.
Alan Combs, doing the radio graffiti, which is kind of what you do.
Oh, sure. Mm.
There's been many people that have spoken their mind to the maximum. And Donald Trump is no different. He believed that this thing was stolen from him. Many people think that this thing was stolen from him, rigged. And it seems shady. I'm sorry. Like, do I believe Donald Trump lost? Nah. I believe that he could have done better, but he didn't do himself a favor. But it didn't fair for him that they had all these mail-in ballots. So was it stolen from him? No. The Democrats are smarter and they used the system against him. People were telling him, bro, you need to up your system. You need to really pay attention. And in his own ego, he said, no, I'm going to become president because I'm so popular. And sure, that might have been true if the rules hadn't changed. And so now he's more aware, and the system's bearing down on him. Why? Because the system doesn't, they know that when you took the mugshot of Donald Trump, that look in his face is, I'm coming for you. And now they're just scared, you know what? And this is where we're at. This is not where we should be at in America. This is dumb. How can we expect to ever go back to normal if the way forward is you do extreme political actions on me, they will be retributed on you. And right now we're just saying, hey, we're going to flex the muscle on you like that. Well, what if Donald Trump said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to form commissions and we're going to have Nuremberg 2.0. I want to remind everybody in those Nuremberg trials, okay, and I'm going off the deep end here, but I never thought we'd be prosecuting attorneys for just giving advice. They weren't like, okay, you're guilty, here you're going to jail. No, you're guilty. Take this dude to the back and blow his head off. We got to stop, guys. This is ridiculous. Let's not use the thing that is so important in America, fair justice, and pervert it to our political end. Doesn't matter what Andrew or I think, or quite frankly, we're having this discussion on this radio station. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter, because the powers that be have to stop. They have to recognize that there has to be a moment that says, stop, because we're going to turn into I don't even want to say banana. We're just going to turn into a piece of garbage country like any other piece of garbage country.
I will say that the concept of escalation, I mean, I've often in the past railed against the idea of political expediency being sought over values, long-term planning, those things like that, mostly in other political contexts, like the nuclear option, so-called, or the filibuster rules in the Senate, those kind of things, as being like we just got to go through this right now, and then we'll bring it back. But, oh, no, wait, when the other side does. I mean, so that's the real idea, I guess, the core concept for me, that, I mean, sure, if there are certainly certain people out there, some who have called into this program or discussed on it previously, the idea that they just want certain people to not be in politics, and as much as there is other intimations out there about that, including Mondo Moncada saying Donald Trump will never give up. Well, I would be surprised if he does, at least in the short term, and if he does give up in the short term in any case here. But what I'll say about it is this, that the idea of, continually ratcheting or ramping it up, again, people who have done things that deserve to be held accountable for should be held accountable. But also there are then further implications down the line of it. And I mean, we've seen it, outside of legal proceedings, it's strictly in the political process, within a bunch of times of it being talked about in the chambers of Congress about impeachment and working forward with that, because whether people, I'm sure, on the side that is being considered against, probably not considering it justified now, being seen as that same, well, you did it to us, so we're going to do it to you, that kind of mentality and the lack of stepping back from the ledge and what comes along with it is not great. I'm not exactly in favor of it, because not considering, again, long-term consequences of how will this, precedent setting, all those kind of things, is certainly important. So I'll just say this, that at this point, just to address specifically the former president here on that part, I would not think that any just summary dismissal or anything like that being done would be a good, useful, or just good thing for the long term to be done at this point in time, because the seriousness of what has been brought up there deserves to be fully adjudicated. Anything that would be less than that would not serve this country well, I do have to say. So what that means is they have to fully go through the process, see everything, present all the evidence, have all the argumentation, and let it stand as it should through these processes, and make sure that they are done in an unreproachable way. That would be one of the other major parts of it that does have to be in place to see it, again, what I'm kind of calling for there about seeing it through, as opposed to just saying, let's dispense with it, because I don't see that working well on the other end of it in any case. But again, the idea of, and I'll put this in other ways, that if a political tool exists, again, speaking just politically and not in the kind of escalation way, that if a political tool exists that you would love, you think is useful, it's so great, but it would scare the bejesus out of you if your political opponents had the control of it, so it only works if you're in charge of it and not anyone else, then I still stand by this. That political tool should not exist.
I agree. And here's the problem too, because this is interference. I want everybody to understand. I want this to come out because I want it to be known that Donald Trump, regardless of how you think of him, regardless of Alex Jones, Rudy Giuliani, whoever, okay, you have a right in this country to political speech.
Certainly.
You have a right to dissent, and you have a right to think differently than the powers that exist. For years, when Donald Trump was president, everyone accused him of being a Russian agent, blah, blah, blah. And even in the face of all the facts coming out today and saying this was staged, this was FBI driven, these are the internal organizations and our higher echelon intelligence agencies basically being turned on America. It's not that it's been turned on America. It's that these agencies just serve themselves. The government has I think in some ways the government just thinks, oh, we have all these people we have to govern over. And this is a great timing that this is happening. There's a movie coming out with Joaquin Phoenix, and it's Napoleon. And I hope everybody gets an opportunity to go watch it. I want you to understand, the reason this man became emperor is because people were desperate for somebody to just bring sanity to the chaos. And there is chaos right now, guys. The actions that Napoleon took were spectacular at the moment. But this guy's a monster. But people loved him because he brought sanity. Same thing with Chavez. Same thing with Obrador in some ways. Man, I don't know how you get back to Washington, brother. I mean, we basically have to take the steps of AA and recognize we are the bad guys right now. I think if we recognize that we're just a piece of garbage country right now, maybe there's a hope to redemption. But as long as we just keep covering up the wounds and blaming everybody else, making you think up, hey, you're a racist, I'm a racist. Guys, let's understand this. I'm a Yaqui Indian. My family are mountain Yaquis from Chihuahua. Okay, if anybody should be pissed off, my people have experienced slavery, oppression, revolution, you name it. The Yaqui mountain people have experienced it all. My people were shipped off to Oaxaca, to Torreon, to some of the most oppressive places in Mexico by Porfirio Diaz. I mean, I'm not sitting here going, we need reparations from Mexico. Oh, dare you give me money? And that's history, guys. That's what happens. People are just pieces of crap sometimes. What can you do about it? You learn, we progress, we become better. Obviously, that's not happening in the world right now, in the civilized world. But maybe we should turn our eyes to places that aren't so civilized, and we'll realize that the world really isn't so modern as we think it is.
I mean, it definitely isn't. And I will say this, the whole idea of a 12-step for America is an interesting way to consider it. But just to that last point then, I mean, as much as we have had, even just this week, interviews about cryptocurrency, the processing power and things like that, and there's a lot of reasons to look, hopefully, I still believe, towards the future, which is weird for me because I'm not usually considering myself an optimist. But I will say that at least half of the world, of the population, estimates have changed a little bit on this, but that's the most updated stat I've seen. About half the world's population still does not have reliable access to electricity. So point is that of all the things that we're talking about, futuristic ideas or, going back to like the 50s idea of flying cars, that may or may not come to pass. But when we're talking about what the basic human needs are, there's still a lot of work to do on this globe and this world overall. And that's one I do think about a lot.
Amen to that, brother. I want to tell everybody, please be careful this weekend. Enjoy your 4-day weekend. And God bless you all. I love you all. And Marco for mayor, brother.
All right. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You too, brother.
All right. With that, we do need to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls, more comments, more of, everything we got going on for y'all for Friday after this. So taking that break right now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki. A Las Cruces man has been found guilty in connection to the death of a 2-year-old girl. The jury handing down the sentence to Lalo Castillo on Friday. He faces a 30-year sentence right now. El Paso police officers responding to a burglary at the Wells Fargo Bank in downtown El Paso on Kansas Street. It happened early Friday morning. No word yet if there was anyone arrested at this point or if anyone was hurt. Police are investigating right now after a man was stabbed to death in Canutillo. It happened Thursday night on 6th Street. Police say this is an isolated incident, but they are treating it as a homicide and the investigation is ongoing. With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
We still have that ongoing accident at Alameda Avenue and Moon Road. It does look like that is in the process of getting cleared up. We also have some bumper-to-bumper traffic on the spur westbound between the Patriot Freeway and Pasano Drive with an 8-minute delay, and some bumper-to-bumper traffic on I-10 westbound between Thorn Avenue and Trans Mountain with a 10-minute delay. I'm Mia Allen, El Paso Traffic.
This is Amber Banda bringing you the weather with help from our friends at KFOX 14. Going into your Tuesday, a high of 100, a low of 71 here in El Paso, and sunny. Same trend continuing into Wednesday and highs in the upper 90s for Thursday.
This report is sponsored by TurnToSupportsTX.org.
No one gets me. I can't take this. Where's home tonight? Hope mom's okay.
Life can take a turn for anyone. So remember, there are always people, places, and activities for you to turn to. Learn more about mental health at TurnToSupportsTX.org.
Good news, El Paso. The WorkSafe Texas Summit is coming, and it's absolutely free. You don't want to miss this exciting opportunity to get important information that can help you protect your workers. Texas Mutual Insurance Company's innovative safety event features panel discussions, safety materials, and more. It's free, it's informative, and we're even providing breakfast. So join us from 8 to 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte. Register at texasmutual.com/summit.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with Mazer Security Alarms. Systems start at under $35 per month. No job is too small or too large. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food too.
With so many bottles to choose from, there's always something new to try at Total Wine & More. How about a great Prosecco for under $8 and a French Rosé for under $7? With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More. Drink responsibly. B21. This report is sponsored by Total Wine & More.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, and a lot of people tuning in, chiming in there, adding their 2 cents, and of course, those likes and reacts that we do appreciate as we head into this long weekend with Angel Rueda, Ion Grimm, Richard Janisic, Rick Reyes, Buddy Valles, James Ratcliffe, Jim McCravey, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, RJ, and Ida Beza Gardner, and a lot of commentary coming in, including back and forth on some of these things. Some questions about Carol Sanders with one that I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look at that one there. About anyone know a name of a maid Trump had a baby with? That's not one I've researched previously, I'll be honest with you here, but other ones, I'll just say this. There's some pessimism, to say the very least, in some of the comments here. I myself reject the idea of, the doomer or the black pill when it comes to this, because sure, I'm not saying things are simple, necessarily all sunshine and rainbows by any means when it comes to our politics or the issues around with it, but we have both as, a culture, a society, as a country, and as a civilization faced many more challenges than this. So the idea that, well, that's it, pack it up, it's done for, we had a good run, is not one that I'm willing to accept at this point in time. So I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise that, hey, you know what, you need to be willing for this. But also, I have to say that in all previous challenges that have been exhibited and that have, any culture and society has gone through, it is very specifically something that people have put effort into. So I guess that's the part that I find in any of this idea of, particularly when it comes to, as it's come up in the comments, voting doesn't matter, or this doesn't matter at all, it's all going to heck in a handbasket, stuff like that, is that the idea of therefore not taking action, of not doing something, not being involved, not taking part in it. And I don't mean this in there's people with statements like vote from the rooftops and kind of things, which is, frankly, I'm going to put it in that same category of like doomerism of, well, it's all done, let's burn it down and hope I can rule over the ashes. If you're not doing something now, I really don't know what to say. If you're truly expecting it to go that way, if you're not going to then fight tooth and nail against it, I don't know what is expected with it. So at the very least, I hope when we have discussions like this, the point is not to say, or adjudicate who's right or wrong when it comes to issues of opinion, among other things. The point is that we do have to try it. We do have to give a hoot. And that's why one of the things I rail against most often at all is a symptom of that is the lack of voter turnout in our area. And again, I know I get flack from people saying, hey, why are you just telling anyone to go vote? Because then you'll have low information voters. I mean, sure, I would love everyone to be a well-educated, well-knowledgeable person and being able to have a, reasonable debate with all of them. But if we don't start somewhere, we're never going to start at all. So, James Ratcliffe, not calling you out specifically, but saying my intention is awareness, not to do nothing. But I'll just say that awareness without an intent to action can be feckless. So that's about the only caution I would give specifically to that there as well. But let's squeeze in the calls we can here before the end of the program right now, as we're getting close to closing up on this Friday. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
So yeah, I totally agree with the previous caller that it wasn't totally the United States just stealing the land. It wouldn't have been successful if it weren't for the people who were living in Texas at the time, many of whom were under at least the rule of the crown. It wouldn't have been successful if they didn't want to be part of the United States and basically rebel against Santa Anna, who was ruling over that area pretty ruthlessly at the time. So it wouldn't have, if it was you, would you at that time living in Texas rather be a country with freedom and property rights and all these different things, or would you rather still stay under the rule as it currently was at the time there? So it wouldn't have been successful if the people living in Texas at the time didn't want that move to happen.
I mean, yeah, the reference to the Tejanos being brought up there, and I mean, it's even worth noting that I do believe it was one of the initial flags flying over the Alamo was the Mexican flag with 1836. You know, the banda, the red, white, and green that said 1836 on it. I do believe it was at 1826. Now I got doubting myself, but the point was that it was saying we support the Mexican Constitution that was in place when we entered into this agreement, contract, settlement, what have you. And the fact that it's changed since that, and we feel that as threatening to us and our lives, livelihood, and liberty. Now, don't get me wrong. Also, part of that, there was slavery issues going on with there. So it's not all they were all just so right, and there was everything bad was happening to them. There were implications. Again, history's complicated, y'all. But point is that they were not necessarily rebelling against the Mexican government, but specifically, what they saw and were discussing at the time was the dictatorial rule of Santa Anna. Steve, you still there with us?
So yeah, it is complicated, and it is history. And at some point, you do have to say, well, we have to deal with the situation we're in now, and we have to move on. And so in that same vein, and when it comes to the politics of the United States, I do think that Marco was right about in some ways Donald Trump said some stupid things and brought a lot of things upon himself. Part of that being, in his campaign, the chance that would be allowed to go on about lock her up and those kinds of things. So that was a very divisive thing to do and say. That being said, when he did become president, Hillary had all those emails that were subpoenaed, and she was supposed to turn them over, and she erased them and smashed those Blackberries, the computers, laptops, or whatever, just destroyed, erased everything, and said, "Oh no, that was all personal stuff. I know you subpoenaed my emails, but I just got rid of the stuff that you guys didn't really want anyway." So she kind of got away with that. And you know what? Donald Trump became president, and he left it at that. He didn't actually go after her. So it is kind of interesting what's going on now. I think that it is a dangerous precedent, but at the same time, there is, I think, some unequal justice going on. I think we're going to find out more and more about these shell corporations over the seas accounts that the Bidens had, that they were funneling money from China and Romania and Ukraine and all these things to different family members. And the question when it comes to that is, were any things in the policy of the United States changed when it comes to that? Like, it would be terrible if this Ukraine war, for example, could have been avoided if Biden hadn't been under the thumb of interest in Ukraine. And that's just an example, but there may be things from China and different things. So I think that's where that investigation needs to go. And then there's a little bit of whataboutism when it comes to Jared Kushner and that Saudi deal.
Sure.
I would say the difference there is, everyone knows it's all taxable income. It's all taxable corporations. You can look at the books and see what's going on, as opposed to the Biden kind of money laundering shell corporations that they weren't actual businesses that you could look at and say, oh, you provided this service. 70 different banks around the world flagged those shell corporations that were funneling money to the Bidens for money laundering. There's definitely something fishy there. And meanwhile, Jared Kushner, he got that deal with the Saudis. I think it was like 6 months after Trump even left office. So it's hard to say that he was buying influence from the White House when Trump was no longer in the White House.
Okay, I'm not 100% on the timeline there myself here, but I will say this, to correct myself slightly, it was that Mexican flag I was talking about over the Alamo was 1824, the Mexican Constitution of 1824, just to make sure I'm correct on that one.
Okay. But yeah, the other thing is, like when it comes to those influence peddling campaigns and trying to buy influence in the White House, you have to look and see, it's like, well, what was it that they were buying? Was it some kind of policy of the United States government that would benefit, for example, Davia and Jared Kushner? So drill domestic oil, produce oil, more domestic production, which actually would hurt Saudi Arabia. So that would basically be competitive against energy companies over there. So I'm curious what people think is the motivation, or what was the policy that potentially the Trumps would do that would benefit Saudi Arabia, that would encourage that deal. But that's the kind of thinking that you have to have to figure out if something is immoral or against the United States interests.
Okay. I mean, let's just say, the example always comes up of how they made Jimmy Carter give up his family peanut farm versus the way things were supposed to have been put into a trust here. Okay, I'll just say this, maybe outside of any presidency, that the economic interests of elected officials maybe being in conflict with their official duties is of serious concern to me, and particularly when you get to the top levels and well-connected and powerful people. I'm not sure if there's a good solution, but particularly the idea of, at the very least, insider trading being something that should be in place and enforced when it comes to elected officials is definitely of concern to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that should have been implemented a long time ago, and I think the reason why it hasn't been implemented is because both parties are absolutely entrenched in that type of activity, and they have no interest on either side of pursuing that.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Well, we're getting right up at the end here, so I do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Have a good weekend.
No, you as well here. So, tell you what, just because I've been patient here, and we've been trying to get him on for a couple of shows now, we do have Robert in Chaparral. Robert, we got about a minute.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. I just wanted to say, I wanted to cover something I believe one of your callers, Johnny, said last week at the end of the show and stuff, and it kind of sounded ignorant. And anyways, I wanted to just cover it. Maybe I'll continue it. But he talked about nobody caring about Hunter, and he didn't care about what Hunter was going to do, or nobody talking about that, and that it would not affect anything in the White House. And I think that's kind of ignorant to think that, especially with the millions of dollars that Hunter was paid, and there's proof of it from the whistleblowers and his emails and his laptop, which I think that somebody counted like 67 felonies alone was committed on the laptop and stuff like that. So I think, and Johnny does sound like a good guy, pretty laid back and everything like that. I don't think he's a communist and stuff,
okay.
but he's got to really learn what's actually happening and everything. As with all of us, we're teachable. As I think it was Ben, who I think it was one of the first callers today, realized he was probably wrong about that one thing that you corrected him on, and he was quick to say, okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And we've got to do that.
I mean, being informed is at least one of the aspects I hope we try to do here, but that we're about out of time here. So do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there as well.
That's all you're doing. You bet. Bye-bye.
All right. And with that, we're going to have to end the show there because we're super out of time. Not even be able to do that last break. Couple things coming up for you. Of course, this weekend on the El Paso History Radio Show, 10 to noon here on News Radio 690 KTSM, talking with the Border Regional Archives Group about their upcoming bazaar, in which they are going to be having, it's a gathering of all the organizations doing the critical work of keeping records, history, and information along with it alive in our region. Those upcoming things and some of the institutions involved with it. Next week on the program, whole lot more coming. Again, we're going to be off Monday, but we got some things, including some specific about those new laws in Texas, but we're out of time here for the show. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow, or again Monday as we do, or Tuesday, as we do usually Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend, y'all. We'll see you on Tuesday, and tune in for the History Radio Show.